What's up, cuties? Do y'all remember 2014? It was a very wild year. There were some events that hit every part of the depression spectrum that year. There's the Ebola outbreak that led to several tragic endings in West Africa due to health officials failing to act quickly. I bet you didn't remember that one, right? It's hard to remember any diseases beside the big C. I swear it completely distorted our perception of time. I'm still waiting for the day I wake up and it turns out that this has all just been one really long, bad nightmare. What about the Malaysia airline disasters? You remember those? In what continues to be one of the greatest mysteries in aviation, Flight 370 of Malaysia Airlines completely vanished while traveling to Kuala Lumpur. The plane and its 239 passengers just blinked out of existence, never to be seen again. 4 months later, they also lost Flight 17 along with all 298 of its passengers when the plane was shot down while it was flying above eastern Ukraine. It was suspected to have been brought down by pro-Russian rebels, which of course Moscow denied. We also had the Bill Cosby rape allegations, which I don't really feel like I have to get into, right? We all know enough about this. And then there's what was probably most devastating to most. This is also the year that we lost Robin Williams. He was an extremely talented human who helped many overcome the same things he was going through himself. Rest in peace. All these things sucked, and there are so many more that I didn't mention but are just as important. Looking back at the past, it's really easy to get sucked into how many awful things continue to happen around us, but it wasn't all bad. For example, that same year, 18 states made gay marriage illegal, raising the number of states to 35 out of 50. That's a significant improvement. It's still not, where we want to be, but we also reached a global agreement on climate change, which, let's be honest, isn't good enough and it needs to be updated. We gotta take the victories where we can get them is what I'm trying to say. And for any Swifties watching, I'm sure I don't need to mention that this is the same year that your Lord and Savior, Taylor Swift, dropped an album. And finally, we arrive at the whole point of this video. You see, on August 8th of 2014, a man by the name of Scott Cawthorn released a tiny little game by the name of Five Nights at Freddy's. It's a little independent game. You might have heard of it. No big deal. Originally, it wasn't intended to be nothing more than a silly little horror game of an extremely underpaid employee reporting to a family diner where the animatronics constantly try to kill him until he's finally fired after the 7th night of the job. The thing is, the animatronics wasted no time attacking him, yet he still kept reporting to work. And y'all might not have known, but originally the game wasn't intended to have the story that it does. But when the players started connecting dots that weren't really there, Scott decided to take advantage of the situation, and the rest is history. And now the series spans over a total of 13 games, 5 books, and now a movie, which seems to take place in a different canon. Personally, I didn't really grow up with the games. I played them, but honestly, they weren't a significant part of my childhood. I kind of found the games to be a little boring and too easy. And then, I've never really been a fan of jump scares, so that wasn't really helping. And I have had an itch to just go back and play the games, but that's more for the culture than anything else. But I was very surprised when they announced a movie. I was convinced that the closest we would ever get was that movie Willy's Wonderland. Do y'all remember that? It's the movie with Nick Cage where he's basically a mute. I thought that's all we would ever get. I mean, the story of Five Nights at Freddy's has evolved to a point that how do you even begin to make a movie with a cohesive plot around the plot of the game? Because in of itself, the game's plot is all over the place, right? I mean, it's bad when you have to watch an 8-hour video just to be able to understand the story. Go watch the video, by the way, if you're interested. Gibby, the YouTuber, made an amazing video, so go check it out if it's your kind of thing or you just need something to listen to while you're at work. The link is in the description. So, how was the movie? Honestly, it was alright. It makes some references to the games and the books, but it's kind of its own thing. It almost feels like a remix of the first couple of games. It's easily a movie you can watch on its own, but you might be left feeling a little disappointed if you don't have your own pair of nostalgia glasses. And I feel like I've mentioned the games a lot so far, so I want to make it clear that I won't really be referencing the games too much going forward. I'm gonna be treating this movie as its own thing. This is also a warning to go watch the movie if you haven't yet. It's available on Peacock. Also, don't forget to like and sub and hit the bell and all that good stuff while you're at it. You ready? So the movie follows Mike Schmidt, who is coming fresh out of his victory at the Hunger Games, and that's not right. Sorry, he's a man forced to look after his sister, Abby, following the deaths of their parents. So the mom died of unknown reasons, and the grief led the father to take his own life. And I do kind of want to point it out because it does kind of become a trend. Unlike in the games, the movie makes it feel like everything was just a coincidence. Like it could have really just been anybody, and it just so happened to happen to the main character. And that'll make more sense a little later. Mike has been having a really tough time holding on to a job, and the constant nightmares of the day his younger brother Garrett was kidnapped aren't helping. And this event is so confusing because his parents asked him to keep an eye on Garrett, and within seconds, kidnapped. The kidnapper must have been lurking, right? Just waiting for his chance to strike. Which begs the question, how did no one see the fucking car parked in the middle of the woods? Mike has CPS on his ass due to his inability to hold a job, as well as their bitch of an Aunt Jane who wants to take Abby so she could get that paycheck that comes with looking after her. Desperate, he reaches out to a hiring agency and is helped by an alternate universe Shaggy Rogers. He tells Mike that the only opening he has is a graveyard security position at a rundown family diner called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Mike rejects the offer because he can't work days because he has to look after Abby, so he returns home dejected. So Mike has this girl, Maxine, who I guess is Abby's babysitter, although for a good while I thought they might have been dating on the DL. Mike is able to get Maxine to look after Abby, so he takes the job so he doesn't lose custody of Abby. He decides to head there wearing the most casual of fits. For some reason, the uniform just consists of a vest that says security. And maybe this is because I grew up living in cities, but I have never seen such a uniform for security guards. His first shift goes well, despite the creepy animatronics and the fact that he fell asleep. Also, he had a new nightmare. He got a version 2.0, if you will. Now, on top of the nightmare, he also dreamt up of these 5 kids who continue to run away from him when he yells at them, "Where is Garrett?" like a psychopath. Maybe he should change his approach. Anyways, the vibes must have been like really fucked up or something. This does become a trend. He starts taking sleeping pills while he's at work so he can force encounters with the kids. The extra weird thing is that sometimes when they damage him in the dream, he'll wake up with some scratches. I don't think they ever address this. So there's also this Officer Beck, Vanessa, who continues to check in on Mike and worries about how lax he is with his security. It becomes obvious that she's hiding something, but Mike remains completely oblivious. And in between shifts, it's revealed at a diner that Aunt Jane hired Maxine and her brother to get incriminating evidence on Mike. There's also this random guy taking their order. He seems like he has a lot of opinions on things, but that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. That's so stupid. Anyway, so the siblings and a couple of their friends break into Freddy's to make a mess and get Mike fired. Things don't go their way and they're fucking decimated by the animatronics. It's not pretty. I mean, Maxine gets her fucking torso bit off. Oh, I need water. So, with his babysitter now gone, Mike is forced to take Abby with him to work. At this point, he already suspects something might be a little sus with the animatronics, so he demands that Abby stay in the office. But she immediately comes out while he's napping. Mike hears her screaming and runs to rescue her, but she's just getting tickled by the animatronics. The following day, Mike finds out Abby can communicate with the kids, so he takes her to work with him again so she can ask him where Garrett is. Again, he has no evidence, yet is completely convinced that the kids know where Garrett is. Vanessa shows up and explains to Mike that the spirits of the kids that he's been seeing in his dreams are actually in the animatronics themselves, and that they were just victims of a killer who was never apprehended. Mike just accepts this. He doesn't really question her on why she's kept it a secret. And then there's this montage of Abby just essentially building a fort with the robots. It's kind of weird. Also, for whatever reason, they just decided to humanize the animatronics in this movie, which I think is a weird choice, but you know, to each their own, I guess. Abby ends up striking the guitars of one of the animatronics and it just sends her flying. With the concern of her possibly getting hurt, Mike decides to want to keep Abby away from the animatronics. works. So he reaches out to Aunt Jane the following day so she can look after Abby while he works. She agrees as long as they have a talk about Abby's future after his shift. Unfortunately, or should I say fortunately, this never happens. Mike ends up falling asleep again, and the kids in his dreams tell him that he can stay in his dreams forever and interact with the spirits of his parents and Garrett, and all he has to do is bring Abby. That's all they want. You know, it's a deal. It's said and done. You know, no big problem. Just give us your sister and you can have dreams with your family members. That's a good trade. They really hit him with the, we come to you as humble robots and all we want is the girl. Mike initially agrees, but changes his mind when Abby's face crosses his mind. This pisses the animatronics off, so they move him while he sleeps, because he's asleep, mind you, and have him set up so that an animatronic mask is slowly falling onto his face that will kill him, and he wakes up just in time to move aside. And this is weird because why didn't they just kill him? Why did this randomly become Saw? I want to play a game looking ass. He manages to free himself, but instantly runs into Maxine and her friends' bodies. And look at her torso. How is it still intact? We saw it get chomped off. And then the red animatronic Foxy begins chasing him down. He reaches the exit door, but it's locked. And you know, I don't really know what happens after, but he's found by Vanessa, who I guess moved him to a police supply outpost on her own. Honestly, it's super weird considering he's bleeding, but I guess a hospital would have been out of the question. Also, I guess they expect us to believe she carried him here all by herself, and that also no one noticed a white lady dragging a bleeding unconscious man around. I don't buy it. So she kind of confesses that she knew that not only were the kids spirits in the animatronics, but also their corpses. And this really begs a question. How did no one notice? I've had the displeasure of working around my fair share of dead animals, and let me tell you, if there was something in those suits, everybody would have known. She also reveals that her father, William Afton, was the one who was responsible for all the murders, but that she didn't know about Garrett. Also, apparently her dad now knows that he's looking for him. You know, maybe the kids told him, but it's just so bizarre to hear that he was somehow able to find out that the brother of one of the kids that he killed over a decade ago is now looking for him, and now he's really close to finding everything out on account of somehow being lucky enough to get a job at his business. And despite the boy not having any type of evidence, he is somehow convinced that the pizzeria is tied to the murders just on account of vibes. Did I get that right? Mike, unsurprisingly mad at the reveal, demands she tell him how to stop the animatronics. Vanessa tells him that their weakness is electricity. It won't stop him, but it'll buy him some time to escape. So she gives him a taser and a stun rod, and he asks her to come, and she says no because if her dad is there, she'd be less than useful. She gives him the keys to her fucking cop car. How does this woman have her job still? Mike begins to drive back to the pizzeria, but back home, something a little more sinister is going on. A golden bear animatronic shows up at Mike's house and just fucking kills Aunt Jane. One of the kids' spirit convinces Abby to trust the golden Freddy, so she follows it into a taxi. And I don't know how the hell, but apparently the animatronic also gets in. But look at this shot and explain to me how it's humanly possible. I mean, where the f are his legs? Where did they go? Eventually, the two arrive at the front door of the pizzeria and Golden Freddy vanishes. She walks in and is welcomed by the animatronics, who play her little song. The yellow one, Chica, calls her over and begins to lead her away. It's here when Mike arrives and he sees Abby being taken away, so he somehow sneaks past the other animatronics, despite this shot making it obvious that Freddy would have been able to comfortably see him sneaking around. Mike then pours water onto the stage and fires his taser at it, which knocks out the two animatronics. Chica and Abby arrive at the room they tried to kill Mike at earlier, and Chica just drops the act and just tries to force Abby into a different animatronic so she would possess it and join them. Abby fights back and is able to hold Chica off long enough for Mike to arrive. Mike then shoots Chica, incapacitating her, and hugs Abby. And then he goes off on this long-winded apology, and then she hits him with a,
"I love you too, Mike. But we should probably go now."
Imagining any of the, yeah, me too, but let's go. They make their way down the hall and Mike gets jumped by this little guy. And I didn't really mention it, but yeah, he's basically just a cupcake. For some reason, Mike tells Abby to run and stays there fighting the cupcake alone. He manages to kick it off and then he inserts the stun rod down its throat, which ends up stunning it. Meanwhile, Abby is hiding from Foxy and we get this shot of Abby being in a corner and Foxy's about to find her. And tell me why she just teleported across the fucking room. Like, how would she have gone there? And how did she hop into the ball pit without being noticed? Fucking Houdini reincarnated for one last trick, I guess. So Foxy starts heading towards the ball pit, and just as Abby is about to be caught, Vanessa appears, stuns Foxy and rescues Abby. She tells her that they have to get her somewhere safe so she can go help her brother. Mike, on the other hand, runs into Golden Freddy and starts getting his ass kicked. The Golden Freddy starts making fun of Mike and tells him that, yeah, he killed his brother and now it's his turn. He awakens the animatronics with some black magic mumbo jumbo and tells them all to come. He brandishes a knife and he's about to kill Mike when Vanessa, while pointing a gun at him, tells him to stop. Hey, this is Editing Subtle real quick, guys. Just wanted to make a quick comment. That cleaning motion that William Afton does on his knife is a reference to the same motion that Ghostface does in the Scream movies. Matthew Lillard, the actor who plays him, was one of the villains in said movie, and that's where it kind of originated, so I just thought that was kind of cool and I wanted to bring it up. Golden Freddy removes his mask and reveals Shaggy? I mean, the guy from the hiring agency? While the daughter and father argue, Mike and Abby somehow come to the conclusion that these pictures that Abby has been drawing throughout the movie will somehow let the animatronics know that Billy Boy killed them. So he has Abby make a drawing while he runs to turn on the breaker for the lights. Back with Vanessa, her father tells her that her only job was just to keep Mike in the dark and kill him if he got too close. And this is when she decides to be the rebellious youth that she is and tell him, actually, that's 2 jobs.
That's 2 jobs.
He begins to choke her, and when he sees Abby walk by with one of her drawings, he fucking stabs Vanessa in the stomach. And then the next thing that happened is so ridiculous. With a very disgruntled yell, Abby rips a drawing off of the wall. And then she proceeds to stab a crayon through the wall to keep her new drawing mounted. Imagine the strength in those little fingers to be able to pierce that wall. And then after, Mike turns on this breaker over here, which I'm not really sure what it's for since the lights are already on, but the switch just happens to turn on a light that just flashes conveniently at Abby's drawing. The animatronics all immediately see the drawing and instantly understand the message, so they surround Billy. He basically goes off on a monologue about how disgusting the kids are now and that he made them, you know, villain shit. The cupcake jumps at him and rips a part of Billy's suit stomach off, and then out of nowhere the suit just decides to malfunction and it begins closing in on him, damaging his insides. Billy says, "I always come back," and puts on his helmet, and the animatronics drag him away. Mike helps Vanessa and then they escape alongside Abby. Sometime later, Abby's doing well in school and her and Mike's relationship is much better. They stop by to see Vanessa, who is now in a coma. Mike thanks her for everything and tells her that he hopes that she gets better, and then the two leave. Back at their home, Abby asks if they can go see the animatronics because she's concerned for them since no one is looking after them anymore. Sweetheart, they try to kill you. Mike, also apparently forgetting they try to kill him, tells her that they'll go soon. And then it cuts to Billy. The animatronics just lock him into a room and he seemingly dies. That's it. You're probably thinking I'm not telling you everything. And you'd be very wrong. The movie just leaves things out. Like, why is no one even suspicious of Mike after all the deaths? Did they just not tell anyone? And if they did, what did they tell him? Aw, sorry, the guy who did it is gone. These animatronics took him away. What? How do I know it's him? It's more of a vibe, really. I didn't like the movie. Things just kept happening around Mike. But the thing is, like, he didn't really do anything to advance the plot. I mean, he only found Garrett's killer by accident. He wasn't even looking, but somehow he just knew. Also, Vanessa's character is kind of a mess. Talk about not knowing what you want out of your characters. Honestly, the games, despite being convoluted as they are, just did it so much better. At least Video Game Mike was actively looking to avenge his brother. There's lots of nostalgia in this movie, but if you never played the games, then you're probably good to skip it. Unless you go in high out of your minds like I did. Again, it's on Peacock if you want to watch it. I am feeling like talking about something a little bit more lighthearted next time, so I'm going to be rewatching one of my faves, Like Mike. Go check it out if you want to be ready for next week. And don't forget to like, sub, and hit the bell. Catch you guys later. Okay, bye.